Hell hath no fury like a Bonnen scorned. That is, I guess, a play on the famous term that everyone has heard, hell hath no fury like a woman scorned, which actually came from a play in 1697 called The Mourning Bride. And the original quote was, heaven has no rage like love to hatred turned, nor hell a fury like a woman scorned. So, everyone knows that our current Speaker of the House, Dennis Bonnen, is not running for re-election. And he's not running for re-election because he went back on his word. He lived a duplicitous life. He was called out on it, and then he lied about it, and he tried to cover it up. And he was caught. And he and his leadership team still to this day do not understand why they're not in power. And they still don't understand why a majority of the Republicans in the House Republican caucus feel as though there is a serious leadership problem in the Texas House. So this week or last week or week before, anyways, over Christmas, since last time I talked about this, Dennis Bonnen decided to remove Chris Patty from chairing the coveted Sunset Committee, and he decided to put John Cyrier in his place. And this was a specific move done by Dennis Bonnen because hell has no fury like a Bonnen scorned. And he is very upset because Chris Patty called him out. Chris Patty publicly said that Dennis Bonnen should no longer be Speaker. And that is something that Dennis is not very appreciative of. And so he took him out of that position and he put John Cyrier in because John Cyrier stayed silent when many other Republican lawmakers were coming out and saying there's a serious problem. You know, Chris Patty's not somebody who I particularly align with. He's not a strong conservative. He was originally recruited by moderate establishment types to oppose Wayne Christian in his reelection. Wayne Christian is our current railroad commissioner, but at the time was a state representative. And Chris Patty ran against him and received support from all of the establishment moderates in Austin, and they defeated Wayne Christian in his election. So Chris Patty is not somebody that conservatives see as a leader. But when it came to Bonnen's deceit, corruption, manipulation, there was a strange coalition that formed within the Republican Party. There were principled conservatives like Matt Schaefer, Kyle Biederman, Steve Toth, Tony Tinderholt, and other conservatives that stood up and said, this has to stop. There were even people, strong conservatives like Phil King and Tam Parker and Dwayne Burns and other people like that who have more conservative records, are definitely in what we would consider the right of center side of the House. John Smithy would be in that list. And then you had left of center Republicans like For Price, Dan Huberty, Lyle Larson, Chris Patty, and John Frullo. And everyone came out in opposition. I think some people came out in opposition because they knew that it was the right thing to do. And honestly, we have to admit that some state representatives came out and opposed Dennis Bonnen because they saw it as a political opportunity. But the question is, why would you not come out and call out the leadership of Dennis Bonnen? Why would you not say that the Texas House needs something better? Well, at the end of the day, there's still probably 20, 25 members in the Texas House that really wish that Bonnen still survived. Even after they found out all the facts, they wanted him to remain Speaker. And so those people are people that Dennis Bonnen is trying to promote. He's trying to encourage. You might remember that when he left this weird list. I can't even remember what episode I talked about that list in, but he basically said, I'm leaving, and by the way, these are the members that get credit for me leaving. And it was a list of members who refused to publicly say he did the wrong thing. I think Chris Patty is a more liberal Republican, okay? He is a much more liberal Republican than I am, probably a much more liberal Republican than 90% of the people listening to this podcast. But he shouldn't have been removed from the committee. And here's what I would say. If he was going to get removed, maybe he should have been taken out and a really hardcore Republican conservative replaced. But that's not why he was removed. Intent is prior to content. And the intent behind the removal of Chris Patty was to punish somebody who called out the deceitful emperor, Dennis Bonnen. I'm going to read you the quote that Chris Patty and some of his colleagues put out. This is what cost him this chairmanship. As long-serving members of the Texas House, we informed Speaker Bonnen earlier today that we no longer support him as our speaker. This is what they said in a joint statement. It is clear that trust and confidence in the speaker has significantly eroded among our membership, and the matter has both damaged the reputation of the House and relationships among individual members. True statement. And within 24 hours, Dennis Bonnen put out a statement saying he was no longer going to be seeking re-election, and thus ended Dennis Bonnen's reign of power. But he still has this title, right, of speaker, and he's going to use every little ounce of that to make a change. Some of y'all remember Pancho Narvaez. Pancho Narvaez was a Democrat chairman who stepped down. He hasn't resigned, but he stepped down and said, I'm not seeking re-election because I need to spend more time with my family, which we later found out was actually because he had been caught with a significant amount of cocaine in his possession by Texas DPS. And he decided that that probably wasn't the best thing when it came to running for re-election to the Texas House. He and Bonnen similarly put out one thing in public that was different than what reality was. And they're both not seeking re-election. Interestingly enough, Pancho Narvaez is literally the chairman of the committee that oversees all Second Amendment legislation and border security operations in DPS. So many conservatives have asked Speaker Bonnen to remove him from chair and replace him with a conservative Republican. And Speaker Bonnen has refused. But he did take some time to make sure to punish the person that called his duplicity out, and then lift up or reward somebody who stayed silent. This is bad for the Texas House of Representatives, which means it's bad for Texas. And you as a Texan should care. So you need to reach out to your state representative and continue to tell them that it is incredibly important that not only we ensure that the next Speaker of the Texas House is a conservative, but probably more importantly, we need to make sure that that next state representative is an honest person who opposes deceit and corruption. I hope you're having a fantastic week. We will have some more conversations coming your way in 2020. Please consider subscribing to the podcast. Please consider sharing this with your friends and family all over Texas. Have a great day, and God bless you. Thank you so much for watching this video through in its entirety. If you're somebody who's been following on with the conversations and the commentary that we've been producing here, we're going to ask you to do a couple quick things. Go to lukemacias.com. You can give us your email and sign up. We will email you new content, commentary, conversations as we produce it. Also, you can, if you're on Facebook or YouTube, you can like our page, follow our page, or subscribe to our YouTube channel. This will just continue to ensure that when we produce content, it gets to you more easily. Thank you so much for continuing to support the conversations we're producing. God bless you. God bless Texas.